Hi, welcome to This Week in Kettering. I'm here at Orchard Park Elementary School, and my guests today are Maggie, who is a third grader here, Heather Cohn, who is the MMLC coordinator. We have Mason, who's a fourth grader, and Embarker, who's a fifth grader. So, welcome everybody. Glad to have you here. And what we're going to talk about is a really neat activity event that Orchard Park hosted right before we went on winter break, and that was a writing Olympics. And I'm going to let Ms. Cohn talk a little bit about what this writing Olympics was, and it's tied in with a very popular author that you've hosted here at Orchard Park before. So tell us a little bit about the writing Olympics and Mr. St. Jean.
Thank you, and thanks for coming to Orchard Park because we were super psyched about this whole process. Mr. St. Jean came to us for the first time 4 years ago, and that was when Mason was in kindergarten, and did a great presentation about his super books. He has some books for little kids, and he has some books for bigger kids, and he even has a scary book. Just saying. So when he told me about a writing Olympics, I thought, that sounds really interesting, but I need to make sure it's cool. So we did kind of a mini writing Olympics last year when he came with the older kids, and then this year we blew it out of the water. We had the full-blown writing Olympics. He came and was here for the whole week before break. Every classroom came in to the library, and we wrote. We wrote stories. We illustrated stories, and then the day before break, we had a writing Olympics, and we had 3 judges. Our principal, Miss Ambrose, was one of the judges. Another local author, Rob Boley, who writes very scary stories, was another judge. And our resource officer, Officer Barnes, was our third judge. And they listened to all of the stories, 13, and they judged and they gave scores and they gave ideas about what was great and what scared them and what made them laugh and all of that stuff. And we came up with some winners. Classroom winners, not individual winners, but classroom winners. So the kids learned how to write a story, how to get ideas shot down, lovingly, and just how the whole process works. And it was a super cool experience. So I guess we'll let the kids tell about it then.
Absolutely. And you know what? I'm going to start with our youngest student here. And why don't you tell us a little bit about the story that you participated in because you worked in teams, correct? And you got to kind of brainstorm and try to come up with something that was either funny or scary or had a great plot to it. So talk a little bit about your story, what it was about, and how you and your team came up with that.
Well, our story is kind of about like an apocalypse but with pigs instead. It was pretty much like a farmer and he wakes up and he hears a moaning of like a pig. So it's pretty much him trying to run away from the pigs and pretty much just that.
Okay. When you were working with Mr. St. Jean, what are some of the suggestions he made as you guys were trying to come up with the beginning of the story and the middle of the story and the end of the story so that it all kind of all tied together?
This one kid said that they wanted to have, they were like thinking of the third Oinkadiddle Moo, but he shot that down pretty quickly, and so instead we just did a farm-related one, and my option was a miniature pony, but he shot that down too, and so we settled on a pig, and I don't know how the rest was taken really.
Teamwork, right? Lots of teamwork. And I know that as part of the whole putting your story together, you also had illustrations and pictures. And how did you choose who got to be the person who got to do the artistic side of that?
We were working on a gift for our parents, like a storybook of 'Twas the Night Before Christmas, and there was a substitute instead, so she like went around and looked at all the pictures that we were illustrating and seeing which ones were the best. So that's how we decided who got to do the illustrations.
Well, that sounds like a really democratic way of coming up with who the artist was. That's great. Mason, talk a little bit about your story and your group and kind of how you guys worked as a team to come up with the kind of the what you presented at the Writing Olympics. I'm going to let you go ahead and hold on.
Well, like our class, like we had this story. It was called Evan, and like someone said like a tree forest one or something like that, but Alan shot that down. And then someone said heaven, and so there was heaven. Uh, I forget what else, but there we went with the heaven one, and like he was making like treats for his easy bake oven, and he was using like a light bulb. Like he said he was going to use like a light bulb to like since I was like it wasn't going to be like dangerous, and so when we did it, uh, we um like he like because he was making cookies because
To welcome his new friend.
yeah, to welcome his new friend coming. But when he came, it was an unexpected surprise because it wasn't. Instead of wearing like a robe and stuff, he was like had horns and like with a tail, and he started wrecking up heaven and stuff. And then when his father came, like he wanted all the air conditioners because it was hot down there, and so then they worked out the problem, and he said that you could have half of their air conditioning. And then when he said, God said like, "Do you want to be friends?" And but and the devil's like, "Yeah," and but God said, "Are you still a Pittsburgh Steelers fan?" And he's like, "Yes, and that will never change." And he was like, "Well, we can't be friends."
Because he was a, what kind of
Pitts
fan?
Bengals.
A Bengals fan, absolutely. And I heard you refer to Mr. St. Jean by his first name.
hmm
You have kind of a special relationship because you met him before, way before you did your writing Olympics. Talk a
hmm
little bit about that.
Well, I was really wanting to go to see him, and when and I told my grandparents, could we go to town and country to see him? And they're like, oh, okay, sure. After we had dinner and stuff, we walked around the mall, and I think we walked right past it the first time. And then when we came back, I saw Mrs. Cohn, and so I walked in there, and I saw Alan St. Jean, and we bought, I think, Oinko Doodle Moo and the first Aiden of Oren book. And then I got it signed by him, and we took pictures.
That's exciting. That's very exciting. Neat. Thank you very much. And Embarca, talk a little about now. You are the oldest one here at Orchard Park. Your group are the fifth graders. You guys are the kings of the hill. So talk a little about how you guys came up with your story and kind of worked as a team and what it was that you did to put your story together.
So, our story is kind of a little crazy, and we put a lot of crazy stuff in there to make it, and we tried to put some crazy stuff that weren't like random in there. And this character, his name is Nick, and he was going to have a weather job his because his girlfriend told him if you don't get a job, then she would leave him. And so then Nick, he went, but then he was driving, and then when he saw McDonald's, he was hungry. So he went in there, and he ordered some a, a Big Mac and ordered some Shamrock Shake. And when he was eating, he noticed that they didn't bring his Shamrock Shake. So then he spotted this thing that said H29. So he drank it, and then this big guy with a beard and a trench coat with this chicken he's holding, he came in and said, "Where's my H29?" And then he said, "Don't you mean H2O?" He said, "No, H29." And he said it was for his chicken so he can make it a huge chicken. And um, so then after that, he was in when he was in McDonald's, they heard
a loud noise, and so it was Godzilla out there wrecking the place. So the statue already tried to help, but then it got destroyed easily. And so then Nick, he helped the city and took down Godzilla. And before he did that, Rebecca, he, she was up there. She was screaming for him to help. She was screaming for him to help her, but he didn't care about her, so she got eaten by Godzilla. And so, and then the big guy with the trench coat and the chicken, he came and offered him a job.
Well, gigantic men in trench coats carrying chickens and Godzilla. I don't know what's weird about that at all. That sounds perfectly normal to me. But it does sound like there was a lot of creativity. Talk about why it's important to you. I know you have a real passion for obviously reading and writing itself, and talk why that's so important to instill good writing skills and habits in kids from the youngest to the on up.
Absolutely. We did this with the kindergartners all the way up to the fifth graders, and it's just really important for them to see their ideas come to life. He did a great job with getting them to get it cohesive, to make a wonderful beginning, an action-packed middle, and then a nice resolution at the end. And a lot of the themes were friendship and cooperation, helping each other, and a little bit of comeuppance if somebody was behaving badly. So, but the whole process of it's okay to have an idea that may not go all the way to the end. It's okay to have something crazy happen in the middle, and it's okay to use all different kinds of characters even if they don't quite seem normal. But yeah, it's real important for kids to learn the whole process. It's not just a, hey, I'm reading a book. It's a lot of work, and we did a lot of work, and we made some great things.
Absolutely. And it sounds like this was a great learning experience, but was it also a lot of fun?
It was.
What was your favorite part?
I was probably coming up with the ideas because it was making it fun. Like, it's not always fun to be an author when it comes on it, like, you have a lot of ideas, but he definitely made it more fun. And
Yes. Well, I was actually at the Writing Olympics, and I had a great time just listening to all the stories. So thank you guys for sharing your creativity and for, taking something like this and running with it and making it fun and a great learning experience. So thank you. And thank you so much for having me here today and for also making us a part of the Writing Olympics and sharing that with our community so they can see all the great things we're doing here at Orchard Park and in the Kettering schools.
Thanks for stopping by.
Absolutely. Thank you for joining us on This Week in Kettering. If you have any questions about anything we talked about or you have questions about your Kettering schools, you can always contact me at 499-1458 or at Carrie, that's KARI.Basson@ketteringschools.org. And we'll see you next Thursday on This Week in Kettering.